meeting of the combined Planning and Zoning Board, Local Planning Agency, and Infrastructure Surtax Oversight Committee to order. And it is for the Village of Tequesta, and it is 5:30 on March 20th, 2025. Meg, will you take roll call?
Of course. Chair Leslie Dasher.
Here.
Teresa Maggio.
Here.
Elizabeth Shower.
Here.
Sherry Ambrose.
Here.
Jean McEldowney.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Has everybody read tonight's agenda?
Yes.
And do we have any changes, or do we get a motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Agenda is approved. And then we'll do all three meeting minutes. Okay. And, okay, the first one is the Planning and Zoning Board meeting minutes from January 16th, 2025. Has everybody had a
I
chance?
have a spelling correction. It's on page 2. Second, the third line down, she further nothing. It should be, she further noted that
Oh,
as her late father.
Good one.
And there's another one. There's another one on that same page, the sentence above. It says, she explained that the project was a collaborative effort. It says amount.
amount. You're right, yeah.
We're
Yeah.
good. We're good
Yeah.
proofreaders.
Okay.
Yes.
You could get a job.
Well, we used to proofread, so I missed that one.
I did too, yeah.
Otherwise, I make a motion to approve with the 2 corrections.
I'll second it.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the meeting minutes are approved as with the changes. And let's see, the next one is the Local Planning Agency meeting of January 16th, 2025. If everybody has had a chance to look that over.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, the meeting minutes for the Local Planning Agency are approved. And finally, we have the meeting minutes for the Infrastructure Surtax Oversight Committee meeting from January 16th, 2025. Has everybody looked over the meeting minutes?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the meeting minutes are approved. Okay.
Chair, the next item on our agenda is an application. That being said, I need to, if anyone is present this evening and plans to give testimony regarding application VAR 1-0025, I need to swear you in at this time. So if you do plan to give testimony, if you would please stand with me and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury in the laws of the state of Florida to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Very good. You may be seated. Members of the board, at this time, I would also ask if any of you have had any ex parte communications regarding this application to disclose them at this time.
None.
None.
Okay, very good. With that, Chair, you can call our applicant. I believe staff has a brief presentation on this one too.
Okay.
All right, good evening, Jay Hupsch, Community Development Director. So I know we haven't had a zoning variance in a while, but just for your clarification, if a zoning variance is requested in a residential zoning district, it goes directly to the PZB and you take final action on it. If it's in a commercial district, it goes to Village Council. So tonight you will be voting on this. We typically, in my career, we try to deter people from applying for zoning variances if it's not valid or there's no actual case. So we certainly get a lot of people that have situations that arise and they say, hey, I'd like to get a zoning variance, and I will walk them through the criteria and say, do you think you can meet these legal justifications? Often they don't. This was a case where we met with them, and they're, in staff's opinion, and I think also, I don't want to speak for Dylan, but he and I conferred, and I think he agrees there's certainly some validity to the case you'll hear tonight. I'm just going to give a brief introduction to the project. It's 354 Riverside Drive. As you can see the star there, so it's on Riverside Drive, just south of the Tequesta Bridge. It's immediately north of Dover Ditch, which is kind of a drainage ditch. So as you see, there's a lot of sediment at the end of the ditch as it gets into the river, and there's a lot of shoaling and issues. So you'll hear a case tonight that the applicant has difficulty accessing their docks and need to extend their docks because of the shoaling, which is something that they really did not cause, right? This is from a drainage ditch that they have no control over. Here's another image that shows that, as you can see, it's quite shallow there, almost a sandbar. Looks like a lovely spot to hang out, but certainly makes boating access difficult. So the variances requested, there's two different variances requested. The first one is from section 7620A. It says that docks can only be 75 feet from the mean high water line. They're seeking to construct a 97-foot long dock, again, to give them a little bit further distance away from some seagrasses and from that shoaling situation. The second one is section 7620F. This says that any intersecting dock sections can only extend 20 feet from the main dock, so anything that would be horizontal to the dock can only be 20 feet. They're seeking to construct a 24-foot extension there, so it's a 4-foot difference from what would be allowed by code. Dylan, so the applicant's going to give a presentation now. Alexandra is going to give a presentation on behalf of the applicant. When she's done with her presentation, Dylan will walk you through kind of the legal findings of fact and kind of the legalities of the decision you're going to have to make after it. So I will hand it over to them.
Ms. England, if you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, absolutely. My name is Alexandra England, and I'm from the law firm of Jack Harris. Our address is 790 Juno Ocean Walk in Juno Beach, Florida.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members. Again, my name is Alexandra England. I'm here tonight on behalf of the owners of 354 Riverside Drive, David and Amity Swank, who are here with us tonight. I'm also joined by professional engineer Matt Butler from Eisenminger and Stubbs Engineering. He is the owner's coastal engineer consultant with this project. Before you hear from me a bit further, I would like to ask Mr. Swank to come up and say just a few brief introductory words.
Thank you, Ally. Hi, I'm David Swank. My wife Amity and I have been permanent year-round residents in Tequesta since 2021. We live here with our large family. We have 5 kids and a golden retriever. 3 of the kids are in middle or high school and 2 are off at college. We moved to Tequesta and made a home here because we were struck by it being maybe a warmer and more neighborly area than some of the other areas around here. We were impressed that it wasn't overdeveloped and it was very livable. And I love that we have family here. My brother, Tom, and his wife live in Tequesta, and my niece, Hattie, lives in Tequesta. And we have some great neighbors as well. One of the other reasons that we moved to Tequesta were all of the great outdoor activities that are available here, whether it's going to the beach or boating or fishing. Personally, I've all my life loved the outdoors. I think that the wildlife that we have around here is amazing, whether it's the fish or the birds or some of the marine mammals that we have in the river, like otters or manatees or even dolphins. But with that said, part of the appreciation for the nature here is also understanding that the overall ecosystem is really critical to sustaining that life, and that includes the seagrass, which unfortunately seems to have been disappearing from the Loxahatchee River at a kind of alarming rate. The dock that we've designed and that we're asking you to consider today would help preserve that seagrass. I think it would also help to keep safe people who might be on or around the sandbar, at the mouth of the drainage ditch that flows into the river. And I think it would also help to keep safe our family as we're boating. So I appreciate what this board does to help keep the village a beautiful and special place, and I appreciate you taking the time to consider our application for a variance tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, my name is Alexandra England. Thank you so much in advance for your time and your consideration of this application. I have a PowerPoint that I want to walk you through that I hope you will find helpful, and I hope will provide a good understanding of the hardships that the Swanks presently face that have brought us here today. We have an opportunity to work together to accomplish something really meaningful, which is to provide the owners of this beautiful waterfront property the ability to safely utilize their dock and to protect seagrass beds that are currently at risk of harm. I'll start with an overview of the property. You'll see the property outlined in blue. This is an application for 2 variances relating to a proposed environmentally friendly dock that's needed to avoid the extreme effects of shoaling that have occurred in the Swanks riparian area, as well as protect these seagrass beds. Here in red, you will see the 2 docks that currently exist on the property today. And here in green, you will see these seagrass beds. Protection of the seagrass is one of the main reasons for these requested variances. The blue illustrates the proposed dock, which will move boating activity away from these seagrass beds. By extending it in this way, we're able to increase the distance between boating activity and the seagrasses by about 700%. These proposed plans call for removal of the smaller dock in its entirety. The proposed dock has already been approved by the Department of Environmental Protection and by the Army Corps of Engineers. Both of the Swanks neighbors, those directly to the north and directly to the south, who are, in fact, most impacted by this dock extension, have provided letters of support, supporting these variances and this proposed dock. Like Jay mentioned, the property is situated on a bay directly north of a drainage canal. Again, you'll see the property highlighted in blue, and you can see just a bit of space below the blue. That is the drainage canal. The drainage canal benefits numerous properties inland while providing a unique privacy buffer from the southern neighbor. The property's location on the bay causes its shoreline to be located farther away from the deep water and the navigation channel than the neighboring docks. Also, this part of the river is very wide, and there's a large area of navigable deep water. So you'll notice in this picture just how far away the dock is from the channel by looking at that boat bubble path. And you can see really just how wide the river is right in this area. You'll also note just how close that boat is coming to some of the other docks compared to the Swanks, both currently as it's pictured and even if it were extended a bit more. Sediment outflow is continuously occurring at the mouth of the drainage canal, which has resulted in increasing shoaling or sediment buildup right in the Swanks riparian area. You can see the shoaling highlighted in the red circle in that picture. The shoal inhibits the depth of the water, creating environmental, navigation, and safety concerns, among others. And you can also see from this image that the sediment is building up more so on the north side of the drainage canal, or that left side, which is right in the Swanks riparian area. As a result of the shoaling, at low tide, a sandbar is revealed next to the property, which is attractive to kayakers, paddleboarders, and other members of the community who do frequent this area. Here is another picture of the sandbar at low tide. And you can actually see that because of the shoaling, the small dock on the property, which is illustrated in this picture, is completely dry and unusable. This is the dock that will be removed as part of the proposed plans. The shoaling is causing continued shoreline accretion, which has resulted in the mean high water line moving waterward. In fact, in just a short time frame of about 18 months, the mean high water line moved waterward by about 5 feet. The prior owners of the property actually had a boat lift on the south side of the dock closest to the shoaling, which they were forced to abandon and then ultimately remove because of this worsening condition. The Swanks themselves have tried to avoid the shoal, and they've relocated their boat to the west side of the dock to try and access as deep a water as possible, given the current dock configuration. But these efforts have been unsuccessful. The shoaling is progressing and now requires that the dock be extended into deeper water in order to avoid the shoal. As I've mentioned, the property's riparian area has established seagrass beds near shore, and those are at times being shaded by the current dock and boat lift because they're just so close. Extending the dock as proposed is going to permit additional sunlight to reach these seagrasses, fostering its growth. However, most critically, because the water depth around the property has decreased because of the shoaling, the boating activity has become closer to the seagrass beds, which has increased the risk of harm to the seagrass by boat propellers and other boating activity. And as you saw in an earlier image, there are currently 2 existing docks on the property, both of which were on the property when the Swanks purchased it in 2021. We understand that the smaller dock is a non-conforming structure, and because the plans call for removal of it in its entirety, it's going to result in an overall reduction of nonconformities on the property and increased conformity with the Tequesta Code. Here's a copy of the proposed dock plans that I know Jay showed you a little bit ago. As I mentioned, these have already been approved by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and at the federal level as well. There was no special permit required by the Army Corps of Engineers. The proposed variances are a necessary solution to these multiple unique challenges. As for dock length, the Swanks need to extend their dock to a depth where the dock and boat lift can be utilized safely and the seagrass can be better protected. A longer dock is going to increase safety for the Swanks. It's going to increase the distance between boating activity and that shoaling and allow them to get away from that shallow water. It's going to increase safety for the community because it's going to reduce that conflict zone that's created between the boating occurring so close to individuals using the sandbar. It's also going to promote the seagrass health and growth. Currently, the distance from the terminal platform to the nearshore seagrasses is about 5 feet, and under the proposed plans, it's about 40 feet. And so the proposed dock actually extends boating activity. It's going to occur about 35 feet away from the seagrass beds, which is about 700%. That's going to reduce risk of damage by boat propellers and other boating activity and allow that additional sunlight to reach the seagrass. The proposed dock was professionally designed with safety and seagrass protection as the leading factors. And again, by removing this existing smaller non-conforming dock, we're reducing non-conformities on the property and actually reducing the total boardwalk on the property by 204 square feet. If the Swanks are unable to lengthen their dock to access deeper water and avoid the shoaling, they may end up with a completely unusable dock, just as with the second one, like we saw in that picture. The rate of shoaling has the potential to increase at any time, and the existing dock can be rendered entirely unusable overnight. I previously mentioned that the mean high water line has moved waterward, and in fact, from July 2021 to December 2022, we've seen shoreline accretion or sediment buildup, which has caused the mean high water line to move waterward by about 5 feet. The inability to utilize the existing dock on the property because the water is just too shallow is going to negatively impact the value of this beautiful waterfront home. And the Swanks will be denied a right commonly enjoyed by other waterfront property owners in the village. The proposed dock extension is consistent with the neighborhood. These are approximate measurements of some neighboring docks. The proposed dock is only 488 square feet, making it smaller than many neighboring docks. Also, the depth to which the proposed dock will extend is right around that 3.5 to 4 foot mark, which is consistent with the water depths of some neighboring docks. The proposed dock is less intrusive to the waterway than some neighboring docks. And here in this picture, the proposed dock is the third from the top. You'll see a white line that's been superimposed on this aerial. And you can see this line that we've drawn electronically, which shows the proposed dock's extension into the river compared to the neighbors. And in fact, it's about 47 feet behind this imaginary line connecting these neighboring docks. As for the terminal platform, the Swanks are giving up allowable width for slightly additional length to minimize the length of the dock needed to reach safe water depths to avoid the shoaling, to permit safe access to the boat on the lift, and to lessen the impact of boating activity on the neighbors. So a bit of a trifecta of benefits coming along with this terminal platform. The size is consistent with the Tequesta code. It's 120 square feet, which is allowable under the Tequesta code. And again, just slightly additional width is given for additional length, which ensures safe access to the boat on the lift when boarding. It allows the boat passengers access to the stern of the boat, as opposed to the bow, which is not as safe. It's also designed to allow both boat lifts to be located on the terminal platform, which again reduces the variance requested and the length of the dock that's requested to reach these deeper waters. Relocation of the smaller boat lift from the north side of the dock to the platform is going to protect shallow seagrass beds, and it also lessens the impact of boating activity on the north neighbor by tucking that boat lift into the L. These proposed plans are actually more to the detriment of the Swanks, as their view of the river is more impaired by a perpendicular to the dock boat profile, as opposed to a parallel to the dock boat profile. Again, the terminal platform size is consistent with the neighborhood. These are approximate measurements of some neighboring terminal platforms. The 4 to the north and 4 to the south appear to have terminal platforms that are bigger than the proposed. And in fact, one is actually appears to be about 2 feet longer and 2 feet wider. So really, all of these comparisons just go to say that the proposed dock is nothing out of the ordinary or unlike anything that already exists in the village today. To conclude, the unique physical characteristics of the property necessitate the requested variances, particularly the drainage canal causing extensive shoaling and the nearshore seagrasses. The property is suffering at the benefit of many others inland who are supported by this drainage canal, and seemingly no one is more negatively affected by the drainage canal than the Swanks. The dock has already been approved at both the state and the federal level, and it's going to allow the Swanks to make safe use out of their dock. It will better protect the environment, particularly those seagrass beds, and the community. It will not have any impact on the neighbors or navigable waterway, and is consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. Now, I have the technical criteria up next, but I kind of put all the important stuff, the good stuff, up front, and I've already spoken about it. So if you would find going through each criteria to be duplicative, I don't want to waste anybody's time, so I'm happy to end here, turn it over to staff, answer any questions that you may have.
Did you have any questions for?
I have one, I really liked, you spent a lot of time, and this is what I enjoy when we have residents that hire people to do something and it's done professionally, because it's very detailed. And you definitely have really, I mean, it took me over 2.5 hours just to go through everything, but I mean, it's very well presented. And the other thing that I do, what material, I don't know, can I ask, I mean, because of the dock, I mean, what type of material are you going to be using when you construct your new dock?
That I don't know off the top of my head. That's not my area of specialty.
Okay.
But, Mr. Butler is here. He's the coastal engineer. He may have an answer to that.
I mean, is there any special criteria for, I mean, it's been a very long time since we've had to approve a dock. I mean,
Yeah, so we have standards for that. The building department will look at it. Like they said, the DEP's already looked at it, so it'll be consistent with whatever the Florida Building Code requires and whatever the Tequesta Code requires.
the other, you have a very unique piece of property only because of where you're located, right next to the Dover Ditch. I mean, years ago, that ditch was a very controversial. It created a lot of problems, and the village had to go back and redo everything. So, I mean, years ago, you didn't have the rocks that were there. The village did that. I'm sorry, I've been on this board for a very long time. So, I mean, when I was reading this, and I'm like, I said, crap, he's right north. And I knew the problem that the previous owner had, you know, with that, because he had come and asked, and that's why we put the rocks, and we tried to preserve the land that was there. So, really, this was very, I mean, I'm saving this for the future, because it's been a very long time since we've had to approve a dock. I mean, Leslie and I have been on for quite a while, so, yeah, so, and I appreciate everything that you've done.
Yes,
Thank
of
you.
course. No, thank you guys.
Okay. Questions for Ms. England? I do have one question about the terminal
Sure.
platform. It's the same square footage, but you're asking for it to be longer instead of wider, is that?
Exactly. So it's the same square footage. I believe under the Tequesta code, it can be 6 feet wide. Ours is only 5 feet.
Okay.
So we don't need the 5 feet in width. We just need a little bit of the extra length. So that's why when you do the math, the area, I'm not great at math, but that basic math, it's 120 square feet, which is what's allowable under the code. The 20
see.
feet by 6 feet.
Okay. And were there any other questions for Ms. England?
We're dealing with this, and this is why we have several docks that are becoming not usable where I live on the Intercoastal, and they're filling in underneath. And I can't even imagine trying to get an extension on our docks to get over where they're filling in. I just wondered what this means for anyone else that, you know, is having their docks fill in because of, you know, whatever, boat traffic
It's all
causing
case-
it to fill in.
It's all case by
Um,
case.
Yeah, case by case, I
Variances are
guess.
case by case, yeah.
But that's really kind of, because I deal with this every day. We talk about it every day. We have 3 docks that are becoming unusable because they're filling in underneath.
Your area is also probably the second most unique area in the village after this one, right? Because of the Jupiter Narrows, right? That's what you're talking about. So there's a possibility that somebody can make a compelling legal argument for the same thing there,
Exactly.
but each thing's looked at on a case-by-case basis. We're not necessarily setting any kind of precedent for a future thing because it's,
So you don't feel
Unless
that
the
this
code-
is setting a precedent?
Unless the
Because-
code changed,
code has to
anyone who
change.
wanted to go past the limit would have to come in front of the board for a variance request,
Or change the ordinance.
or change the
Yeah.
ordinance.
Yes.
Which we've asked for previously.
I guess I only have kind of one question as it relates to the requirements for the ordinance, right? And it's that you all are asking for the minimum variance that's required, right? My question's actually related to that, but not that exactly. Are you sure this is enough, given the amount of shoaling you have there? Like, you feel confident this solution is a durable solution for you? I assume your engineers are, or you wouldn't have asked for it, I just.
Right, yes, no, I think we do, and our engineer, Mr. Butler, he can weigh in if I don't touch on anything, but I think exactly that. We're going out only as far as we feel is required in order to avoid the shoal, protect the seagrass, kind of deal with all the issues that we've discussed.
Because it wouldn't be awesome to do a second variance like 5 years from now, is all I'm really getting at, on the same property.
Well, hopefully
We
not.
hope that's
Well,
not
I
the
guess
case.
there-
unfortunately,
We hope that's not the case.
Dylan and I have conferred and you cannot grant a larger variance than requested tonight.
Correct,
Yes.
yes.
Right,
No,
so-
no, I don't want to, I
Everything's
just, okay,
filling in everywhere. I have a
Just-
problem with this.
thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
but their property is unique because of the Dover ditch,
Understood, yeah.
you know,
And I
Yeah.
didn't know that ditch had a name, but
or-
I didn't know that
I
ditch
never
had
knew
a
it
name.
had a name.
I didn't know
Oh,
that either.
no, I'm sorry, you can tell them, yeah, it's just, yeah.
Okay. Okay, if there's no other questions for Ms. England.
No other questions? Okay.
Thank you for your presentation. I
Yes.
see a lot of guests with us today. I just want to make sure if there's anyone else who wanted to speak on this.
I'm
Okay.
from our side.
then we should call for public comment.
Okay, we're ready to, for any public comment?
I don't have any cards.
Meg,
Do you want to?
Marie? Marie, if you'll state your name and address for the record, please.
Marie Sapiri, I live in the country club. I appreciate Mr. Swank's concern for overdevelopment to Tequesta, and I share it. The village's comprehensive plan 1.3.2 states that the village will minimize adverse environmental effects of residential development and that special attention should be given to the environmentally sensitive areas abutting the Waxahachie River. This dock would do the opposite. Tequesta already allows long docks. This dock would be almost twice as long as what is permitted in Jupiter, which evidently has a 50-foot limit. Making even longer docks for potentially bigger boats would have an adverse effect on the marine animal and plant life in the river. After this precedent is set, we all know that in all likelihood there will be other requests for longer docks. We have seen this happen before very recently. Not in the dock context, but in a similar one. And the result will be significant quantities of new structure and larger boats in the water, which would make this, in the end, a highly unenvironmental approach that is inconsistent with the comp plan as well as the code. The argument that this proposal would protect the 3 seagrass beds better than a 2-code dock is not credible, and that means that the analysis fails under section 76-7, B, 7, and 8. The seagrass beds are not currently impacted by the end of the current dock, but the proposed dock takes the end of the dock and the boat lift significantly closer to the outer bed and makes it much more likely that boat traffic will cross over that bed when accessing the dock in particular. You can easily see that by comparing pages 20 and 22 in the PDF. The flight path of boats going to the dock will be much closer to the outer bed as a result of this change, and that will affect the seagrass, which is unacceptable under subsections 7 and 8. There is also insufficient evidence to support the assertion that the sediment deposits are increasing or that the mean high water line has changed. There is only the bald assertion that a coastal engineer approximated the mean high water line that has changed, and that change has been 5 feet between 2021 and 2022. That is not actually evidence of where the mean high water line is, as my understanding is that that requires 19 years of data. It is instead a self-interested assessment that cannot support a variance from the law. The board needs to rely on facts to justify action different from what the law provides. However, satellite photographic evidence, which is very useful to see the evolution and overdevelopment along the coast from at least 1999 on Google Earth, shows that sediment has been in that location and evidently in relatively stable amounts for the past 25 plus years. The photos from 2009 and 2010 in particular show at least as much, if not more, sand in this spot than in 2024. So the approximation of the engineer is not deserving of credibility without additional evidence. In sum, this application does not meet the requirements of subsections 7 and 8, and longer docks to support bigger boats is fundamentally at odds with the priorities in the comp plan and the code and should be rejected. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Any other further public comments?
Could I address some of the issues at the end?
Okay, Jay? I'm sorry, Jared, I'm sorry. If you'll state your name and address for the record, please.
Jared Gaylord, live at 20 Laurel Oak Circle. Just wanted to ask, I don't know, like, who has ownership of the Dover ditch, I guess? Is that like Tequesta?
Village.
The village? Oh, okay.
Village does.
Do they like dredge that ever or not
Oh.
really? Yes. Okay.
The Dover ditch starts there, where
Uh-huh.
his property is, and it goes all of the way down past Seabrook.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, and years ago, we had that 100-year storm, and the Dover ditch just, I hate to tell you this, it just overflowed. I mean, we had massive flooding, but they said that that was like a 100, yeah. So it needed to be addressed, and then just improvements were done over the years as they were addressed, so.
Interesting. I was just wondering about the silting and everything like that, because it does clearly appear that from the aerial photographs that there is silt material that accumulates and accretes near this property. So as far as I'm concerned, I think that the applicant meets the special and unique criteria on your standard and your variance standard. So I'm not voting today, but if I was, I would vote for this.
Thank you, Jared. Ms. England, you want to?
Yes, if there's a public comment.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Meg, could I get the PowerPoint back on? Because I have a few additional slides that I think can help address some of the concerns that Ms. Safiri raised, which I do understand, but I have some slides that I think can help address that.
Well, while she pulls that up, can I maybe ask her a question? So I understood the materials I received to have been developed by experts and reviewed by experts in like coastal, engineering. I don't believe Ms. Sapiri has any technical credentials in that regard. So maybe you could also just remind us of the credentials of the people who assembled the packet.
Absolutely. Mr. Butler, if you want to come up, you can start first. He can tell you about his background, his credentials, and all that. He's been our main coastal engineer with us.
Mr. Butler, if you'll state your name and address for the record, please.
Matthew Butler. I'm with Eisenmenger and Subs Engineering. Our office is at 649 US Highway 1, North Palm Beach, Florida.
Thank you.
Here on behalf of the Swanks. I've been with Eisenmenger and Stubbs. I'm a shareholder now. I've been there for 19 years and 21 days, but who's counting? I graduated from Texas A&M University with the degree in Maritime Systems Engineering. Took about a year off from school and after I graduated, and have been in sunny South Florida ever since at Eisenmenger and Stubbs Engineering. I met with David Swank, it must have been at least a year ago now, at his property. We were looking at two different things. First, we were originally looking at the Dover Ditch and its impacts on the property, and as well as investigating potential dredging out around the dock to reduce the shoal, to be able to have navigation to the dock. Through the course of doing a seagrass survey, looking at Dover Ditch, looking at aerial photography, having multiple surveys done on the property, it was determined that the best thing for the Swanks would be just to extend the dock out to deeper water away from the shoal. That way we can avoid the shoal, avoid dredging, and avoid potential environmental impacts from dredging. With the seagrasses there, dredging is not necessarily feasible. Dredging seagrasses is something that can be permitted, but it's very difficult. It involves mitigation. It's very expensive. Mm-hmm. It's something that we like to avoid at all costs if possible. So myself and my employees swam around the property, took water depth measurements, observed the seagrasses, and came up with, again, what we thought was the best solution was to extend the dock out to sufficient enough room that will not be back, hopefully, in 5 years asking for anything more. Currently, the boat that's on the north side of the dock shades seagrass. The bow of the boat, when it sits on the boat lift, it shades the seagrass. Maybe Miss England can pull that up when she gets back up here. Also, the property was surveyed twice. I believe Miss England said there were about 18 months between the two properties. That's how we determined the difference between the mean high water line and that the shoreline is actually accreting and not eroding, which is very rare. Most shorelines erode. Basically what's happening here is the Dover Ditch shoreline is eroding. And it is not eroding from boat wakes. It is eroding from rain.
Yeah.
As rainfall lands on that shoreline, it is eroding the dirt into the canal. And as the canal floods out, you got this, it's kind of like an ebb tide shoal. As the water comes, the water doesn't really flow into that canal very much of the ditch, but it does flow out, and that's what you're seeing here. Sort of like the ebb tide shoal outside of the big Jupiter Inlet. You get this big shoal that brings all the sand out. So anyways, that's where the evidence of accretion is from the two different surveys. I don't know if I have anything else. The boat lift, the picture there, you can see the boat lift on the side of the dock. The boat is not on it. I think this is maybe, I'm not sure what year this is. Maybe it was before
Oh, I
Mr.
can go to
Swank
a
had his
different
built
slide,
on it.
sorry, I was just guessing. Okay, thank you, that answered my question.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Butler.
Mr. Swank just reminded me that the new dock is gonna be higher than the current one. It's gonna have some spacing, so that's also gonna allow the additional sunlight. The two topics that Mr. Fury had previously raised that I wanted to address, only because I had the slides ready to go, I'll go through. It was the impacts on the seagrass beds that are further offshore, and you can see those pictured here. And actually, we don't have a concern about the seagrass further offshore because the boating activity is still gonna occur about 45 feet away from these seagrass beds. And also, because of the depth of these seagrass beds, we're not concerned with increased shade cover or risk of damage from the boat propellers. And Mr. Butler also spoke about the mean high water line and comparing the two surveys, and I have that for you here. So the mean high water line that is shown on the proposed dock plans comes from a December 2022 survey that was done by Legacy Surveying and Mapping. So Legacy conducts the survey in conjunction with a different dock that never came to fruition. They provide their file to Eisminger and Stubbs, who uses the mean high water line, the property lines, to make their proposed dock plans. So this is from December of 2022. So this is the survey from Legacy. Now, ignore the actual dock that's there. That is not the proposed dock, but these are the lines that were taken and put onto the proposed dock plans here. This is the survey that you were provided in the variance packet of the property. And if we zoom in right at the shoreline area, this survey was conducted in July of 2021. So the mean high water line is that solid line right there, sort of as waterward as you can get. And you can see that the mean high water line from July of 2021 intersects the big dock sort of right at that angle, right where the big dock kind of juts out and is a bit bigger. So it's right at that angle is where the mean high water line is intersecting. Now, if you keep this in your mind and you compare it to the proposed dock plans, which again are from December of 2022, so the mean high water line was resurveyed 18 months later, and you can see that the mean high water line is more waterward. It's further away and it's no longer at that angle. And so these are the legitimate surveys that, you know, our professional reviewed and was able to determine, yes, the mean high water line has moved waterward by about 5 feet between the two times that those surveys were done. So I just wanted to clear that up. I hope that answers any questions that may have been in your mind.
Thank you. Okay, we'll close the floor to public comment and board comments.
Board members, before you make your decision, I'm gonna go over the variance criteria for this application. So you actually have two separate criteria for you to consider when making your decision this evening. You have section 78-652, which is our standard criteria for variances. And that section states that you may authorize upon application-specific cases such variance with the terms of this chapter as will not be contrary to the public interest, where owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter will result in unnecessary hardship. The power to grant such a variance shall be limited upon making a finding by the Planning and Zoning Board that A, special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or buildings involved and which are not applicable to other land, structures, or buildings in the same zoning district. B, the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. C, granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the same zoning district. D, that literal interpretation of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same zoning district under the terms of this chapter and would work unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. E, the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. And F, the grant of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and such variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. On top of those general variance criteria, the section relating to the dock has additional variance criteria for you to consider in section 76-7. Those include, number one, the variance being requested meets the definition of the term variance. 2, no hazardous condition would be created. 3, the flow of water would not be impeded or interfered with. 4, no obstruction to navigation would occur. 5, it would not appear with traditional public uses of the waterway, including but not limited to swimming, fishing, or boating. 6, it would not create an appreciable obstruction of waterway views or otherwise detract from aesthetic values. 7, it would not appreciably disrupt, interfere with, or disturb marine or benthic life. 8, it would not contribute to the pollution of the waterway or the degradation of its condition. 9, it would not interfere with the lawful rights of riparian owners. And 10, it would be consistent with any other applicable laws, rules, or plans. So those are the criteria that you should be considering when reviewing this application. And I would ask that as you entertain a decision on it, should you entertain a decision to approve, you make a finding that those variance criteria in section 76-7 and 78-65 have been met in this case.
Okay, it's 76-7 and 78.
-65.
Board comments? Liz, did you have comments or concerns or anything? Okay, Teresa?
This was a very comprehensive package of information, so I compliment you on that. We have letters from neighbors who have no problem with this, doesn't impact them, and your situation is very unique. So I think we all understand that, and everything here speaks to the fact that you have met the requirements, I believe, of asking for this variance. So I just want to make that comment in the
Okay,
record.
Thank you.
I will make a motion to approve the variance of 1-0025. I feel that they meet the criteria for section 78-65 and for section 76-7.
Second. I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the variance is granted.
Good luck.
You enjoy your new dog.
Thank you for joining us. You're free to stick around, although you're certainly not obliged to do so.
We won't be offended.
Just in case you want to rent your house out or something.
That's right. Yeah, that's the next topic.
Have a good evening.
Thank you all very much.
You're welcome.
Screwed up my papers now. Sorry.
We're getting used to them being combined.
Don't put that on. I gotta find it. There's the ordinance.
Okay, are we ready to proceed?
Yeah.
For our next agenda item.
Okay, we will move on to, oh gracious.
Planning and zoning.
Well, let me see what the number is here. Ordinance zero, yes, I was looking for the. So
03-25.
we're gonna move forward to planning and zoning, sitting as local planning agency, ordinance 03-25. And I can read it, or if you'd like to read it.
Whatever you would prefer, I'd be happy to read it if you'd like me to.
Either way's fine.
Okay. This is ordinance number 03-25. It's an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending Chapter 78 zoning, Article 14, vacation rentals at Section 78-891, vacation rental permit application, and Section 78-893, vacation rental standards, in order to accurately conform these provisions to building and fire prevention codes, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 78 zoning shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, authority to codify, effective date, and for other purposes. And I am actually your presenter for this ordinance this evening.
Okay,
So I will take it away, if that's okay with the board.
yes.
So what you have in front of you is simply an update to our existing vacation rental ordinance. There is a state statute which says that local governments can inspect and vacation rentals for requirements of the Florida Building and Fire Prevention Codes. So what this ordinance does is it goes through our ordinance and updates it, makes it clear that that's exactly what we intend to do. It removes some outdated requirements and updates. We do have a PowerPoint here for you to take a look at. It removes some older non-applicable requirements and clarifies some other requirements of the building and fire codes within our ordinance itself. I'm happy to answer any specific questions that you might have.
Okay, section D, local telephone service.
Yes.
Okay. So many people are getting rid of their landlines now and just having cell phones. So we're saying, okay, so you have to have a landline or a cell phone?
So the requirement would still be a landline telephone, or one telephone with voice over internet protocol.
Which still looks
There
like
are,
a phone.
there
That's
still
a cell phone.
exists
No, it's in.
landlines
Actual
with
phone.
it basically internet service option instead of
Yeah.
your traditional cable type
So
option.
in other words, if I want to rent my house, I would need a I have a landline, so, but everybody is getting rid of their landlines. So if you want to use your house as a rental, so then you have to go back and reinstall a landline.
Or voice over IP.
Yeah, which looks like a regular
Yeah.
house phone, but
Yeah,
it's just,
I just.
and it is just
Oh.
vacation, it is just vacation
This,
rentals
yeah,
versus
this is a short-term
short-term,
rental
Yes.
right,
only.
yes.
Correct.
Well, yeah,
And what do you define as a short-term rental?
Less than 30 days.
Less than.
less than
okay.
30 days.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of people are not aware that we do have those, that, I mean, I think people think we don't have Airbnbs in the village of Tequesta. I can't even tell you how many people have mentioned that to me.
There
They
are.
weren't aware that we
You
had them.
register them.
Yeah.
That we
They're
have them.
supposed to be, yeah.
Yes, we
definitely.
It is, the area of vacation rentals has a long history in Florida. The legislature changed it to where it's now, most regulation is preempted to the state. You're not allowed to limit the frequency or duration of these. So essentially, you're not allowed to, try to narrow them to certain areas or other things like that, or control the amount of time that someone can stay in one of these. What you are allowed to control is you are allowed to inspect them for compliance with the building and fire codes. And that's the intent of this ordinance.
And of course, this would not pertain to condominiums. They have their own rules,
Correct.
not less than 2
Yeah,
months.
that's
most-
private property, and the documents of the private property would control that.
Oh, okay. And I did have one question, it's on the, item F. Is it on page 4 of this?
Yep,
It's,
page 5.
I just didn't understand the wording. Any other material modifications that would increase the intensity or use or implicate the Florida Building Code or Fire Prevention Code? I didn't quite understand the wording.
Let me pull that up.
That's up here.
Yeah, there it is.
So the intent of that is if someone is going in and changing fire-related, if they're installing new systems or changing window sizes or things like that, we want to, anything that would implicate the Florida Building or Fire Code, we want to have the ability to inspect it when it's happening to make sure it's in compliance with those.
Okay. Okay.
But wouldn't the building inspector, wouldn't that be part of his criteria?
And that's why we want this in there.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I learned a lot, so
Yeah,
I have no other questions.
And so basically, we're just going over the few additions, where it says, instead of fire code, fire prevention code, and most of it, and
Right.
we're removing a few.
Removing a few requirements, clarifying.
Well, the CO detection system has to be hardwired, not with a battery, so I mean, they're just those minor things, okay.
I thought it was interesting that every bedroom needs a fire alarm.
We have
It's
them.
true now anyway, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Renovate your house and you find out all these fun things that have changed over years.
yeah, we have them in all bedrooms and
Yeah.
right outside the bedrooms
Yes.
as well, yeah.
In other words, if I go to sell my home, I have to put fire,
Not unless you modify it and accept, something
Yeah.
requires a
Yeah.
permit,
You just can't rent it, short term.
yeah.
You can't change, you can't,
long-term.
change the use of your property
Yes.
or do some modification to it. If you did, then the new codes would apply.
Mm-hmm.
I just went through that with the electrical contractor, so,
Mm.
yeah.
How does the town get involved with each rental? So,
So they have to apply for a permit to the town. It has, an inspector has to go out, check out the location, then issue the permit. A lot of times, code enforcement will find that there are rentals operating, you can clearly see on the various sites.
Totally.
Without a permit.
that's true.
And there's more of them than you think.
Oh, much
No
more than you
doubt.
think,
Yeah, no
yeah.
doubt.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of times they have to issue a violation to get the people to even come into compliance with the code.
You can reach out to the village staff if you need to ask if a property is registered properly as a vacation rental.
Yeah.
They're very responsive.
Does every rental have to be reported in one property?
Yes.
You mean every time
So,
it's rented?
Every time it's
No,
rented?
no, no.
No, just that you
Just register
intend-
once per year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One
just
a
that
year.
you intend to rent your property, yeah, for short-term rent.
It's happening to me next door.
Me too.
Everyone, I mean, I just keep hearing it, yeah.
This all seems like very common sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so, yeah.
But that was 2011.
Yes.
Dylan, did you have
Just-
more?
As I say, just for clarification too, if a municipality had prohibited them before the state preemption in 2011, you could still outright ban them. So you will sometimes see communities that do not allow them. I think New Smyrna Beach, Atlantic Beach, where I used to be a director, do not allow.
Short-term.
Yes, in the
Yes,
keys.
yeah.
They do not allow, New Smyrna Beach does not allow,
It's, so, I don't know if it's city of New Smyrna, but maybe it's even the county, but I know there's issues down there with it. Because I have a family member that has a vacation rental that that's a whole thing. I've said too much.
No names, no names.
It's on the record.
we'll just send the tape up to New Smyrna Beach. Okay,
Okay, Dylan, did you
That's
have more
interesting.
to,
I have nothing more to add.
okay, and, okay, we can open for public comments? Okay, closing, Jared,
The only thing, this is a really,
if you'll come to the podium, please, thank you. Does he have to state his name again? No.
this is Jared Gaylord. This is no bearing on substance. The only thing is on page 7, you deleted some items in 6A, I believe, like 1 through 4. And so oh no, never mind. You're fine. I thought it was like a
It's okay.
numbering thing.
It was not highlighted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
you're
not
fine.
Oh,
highlighted.
not highlighted, yeah, okay.
Sorry.
We will close the floor to public comment and board comments. Any questions or comments?
I will make a recommendation to approve ordinance number 3-25.
Okay, and you did say to recommend
Yes, I did.
approval, okay. Okay,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Okay, any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you. Okay, any staff comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of workshop something with you guys. I think it's
Okay.
fun and exciting. We are undertaking a mobility plan in the village.
Yes, okay.
We're partnering with the Palm Beach County Transportation Planning Agency on this mobility plan. They're paying for half of the study. We're paying for half. It's really exciting. We're gonna look at basically every aspect of mobility: roads, bikes, pedestrians, e-bikes, which is of course a hot button thing right now. Jupiter is actually having a thing tonight at 6 that I would have liked to have been able to go to, but I'm very happy to always be with you guys. So any aspect of mobility, we have a really great firm called Kittleson Associates from Orlando. They're really great, and so we're going to do this mobility plan, and we're kind of in the public input process right now. I'm trying to do as much as I can to reach out to as many people in the village as possible. We had a session at the food truck thing last week, 2 weeks ago. We had over 100 people.
Oh, my goodness.
Really great turnout. The consultants did a Palm Beach County-wide thing, and they were like, wow, we had more input at this than we did on this county-wide thing. Marie, thank you for coming. She came and gave a lot of really great feedback. But I would love to just hear if you guys have any ideas or thoughts. And if you don't have it tonight, we can always bring it up again in April and kind of circle back.
Yeah.
Meg, can you pull up a map? I have it on Firefox there. But just throw the kitchen sink at us. If you have any ideas, thoughts, suggestions, feedback, transportation related, you have the floor.
Certainly like to be able to make a list and
Is Jupiter addressing e-bikes tonight?
yeah.
They're having
Especially after those,
yes,
I mean,
they're having a special session, which I'm sure is going to have a lot of people there.
Oh, yes.
I hope it's recorded
I
so
do
we
too,
can
yeah.
all watch it.
On
That
the
happened
way-
pretty close to where I live, by the way.
Really? Yeah.
Very close to my house.
where the accident was. I mean, I wasn't here for, I just,
My kids know. Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah, I mean, we've had funerals at St. Jude for, I mean, it's just really sad.
On the way here, there's a kid on an e-bike doing the wheelie. They think it's a motorcycle.
On Seabrook Road.
I'm at the light, and this
Every
kid is
day.
approaching, and then as I'm got my thing on to turn here, and the little bugger flips me the finger while he's doing the wheelie. It's just awful. And what they do, I live in Tequesta Garden, there's 10 of them every morning running up and down Westwood because there's no traffic there. But we have people walking, people are walking in the morning, and it drives me absolutely crazy.
We have a quiet street, but these kids won't move out of the way. There's,
They won't.
there's
No,
cars.
they
They're
won't.
in the road.
And they're up on they have their feet up on the seat of their bikes,
Yeah.
riding like that. And then they just they'll turn and look at you, they see me coming and.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I've already talked to the village manager about is preventing people from towing. Well, we used to call it towing, but having multiple people on the same bike.
Yes.
So the kids that got hit in Jupiter had two kids
Two.
on the same bike.
Oh, they did?
Yes.
Yeah.
There were two?
They were on the same bike.
It was
And
the passenger who was.
Pulling a skateboard, yeah.
or that too. But I believe it's actually illegal in the Florida statutes to do that. And so I believe so. We're gonna talk to the PD and see if maybe it's something that we could start enforcing, because that's another big issue. We can't control a lot at this point legally, but that's one thing we can control is, wearing helmets,
Yes.
having multiple
Well,
people on a
yeah,
bike.
but
The other thing is possibly having
go there, right?
the police
I know, on the
department
sidewalks.
educate,
On the sidewalks.
have these kids come,
They're doing some.
I mean, it's sad. I mean, they just don't understand. And e-bikes are so common in Europe. And in Amsterdam, the people that ride bikes have more authority than me crossing the street.
Oh, yeah.
They just keep on going. I mean, they keep saying to us, oh, watch.
Have you
I
been
mean,
to
it's-
Mexico?
We do, I will say this about the mobility plan though, we do want to create an environment in the village, or I think a lot of people in the village want to create an environment where cars go a little bit slower and where bikes and pedestrians do have a little bit of that. Not necessarily with the e-bikers going 30 miles per hour, but we do want to create a more bike and pedestrian friendly community, right? And I think we have an opportunity to do that.
And now, did the other meeting, was that, are there notes so we can look it up to see what was already brought up and?
The visioning thing that we had, so they got a lot of individual feedback. They're going to ultimately pull it into, they're still synthesizing it into stuff. It'll make its way into the report. along with all the other feedback we get. There's actually a website they have. I should have had it on here, but there's a website where you can actually go on it and double click anywhere in the village, and just, you can do it anonymously. You could put your name in there and say, hey, I think that we need a crosswalk at this intersection here. Hey, there's too many people going fast on e-bikes on this street. You can go and put it in all over the village. So there's maybe 10 or 12
Can I
comments
go
on
in
there.
and say that I want a traffic circle
Yeah.
on, but it's a county road?
So, interestingly, we are going to try and work some things like that into it. Someone pointed out that there's not a crosswalk at Seabrook and County Line.
No.
It's in Palm Beach
Oh.
County, but our residents use it, and that's insane, right? So I think things like that are going to work their way into the report as well, and we'll work with the county, we'll actually have to work with Martin County on that one too. But anything that's kind of in the greater immediate
Well, yeah.
Tequesta area, throw it out here. Throw
I
it-
mean, Village Boulevard and, county, not yeah, what is it?
A1A.
No,
Nope.
US,
it's not
Village,
US
Village,
one.
Dixie.
Old Dixie
Dixie,
Highway. I would love to see a
Not a roundabout.
a traffic let me tell you, I have gotten stuck and I have sat there for 10 minutes waiting
Yeah,
sometimes. Whereas if you have it, it goes, I've been in circles and it's just, it works. I mean, it's just getting people to.
That was the location that got the most feedback at that meeting. We had a lot of people bring that up. It's also in the village master plan already, that was done a few years
Right,
ago,
yes, I
right?
remember that.
But that got a lot of traction. Even our consultants were like, because they're still familiarizing themselves with the area. They're like, I don't get it. Why is this spot the issue? Why was a roundabout in that master plan? And then at the meeting, they were like, okay, I get it now.
I mean, you come out of Publix or you come out of and if, you're there for quite a while.
I've never had a problem.
Oh, aren't you lucky? I guess
Yeah,
you
never.
don't go.
We don't go at the same time as we do.
I guess not.
I'll tell you what time to go.
Because you turn right, don't you? Because you live
I
off
actually
Kennedy.
No,
I actually
she-
turn both ways. I'll
She
turn.
can go both ways, the
Yeah.
same
The
as
left
Okay.
turn is.
But the left turn
The left turn
from
is the
Village
hard.
onto
That's
Dixie
where people
is
go. Left turn.
the struggle.
So can I just ask, I think it's great you're gonna include e-bikes in the whole effort. Are comments about shade warranted for some of it? Like my
Yeah.
teenager rides around with her friends and a lot of the routes that make the most sense have like no shade.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because we also want to look at things like placemaking and creating this like pedestrian environment, creating even like bike paths where we have a map
Yes.
that says, hey, here are the best
This is
routes
the best way.
you can go, and along those ways maybe doing like uplighting at night and like markers or shade areas. So absolutely.
In addition, on Old Dixie, I agree with the Village Boulevard being a problem. The master plan had more trees, so it doesn't look like a runway where people are just taking off, because getting out of the library, getting out of the
Yeah.
post office,
Yeah.
going
Oh, yeah.
left is
Oh, yeah.
all horrendous. So, I think we need there needs to be median, there needs
Yes.
trees, so
Something.
or
Yeah, but if
That
you
was-
have
Calm
trees,
everybody
you
down.
might not be able to see the cars coming.
well,
So-
no, so you can, as long
Yeah,
as
I
they've got a
know.
canopy up, just to keep, and just to chill everybody out a little bit when they're there.
Yeah.
Because the problem is, it looks like
Well,
we're about to
that's
take
why
off
we-
and people,
Years ago, that's why we did all of the oak trees down Country Club
exactly,
Drive.
yeah,
And that was in the 80s.
Right. And it's great.
Well, it does, it looks
Yeah.
great, it's just
And
that
Seabrook,
the the root system is pushing the sidewalks and stuff. But, yeah, but there's gotta be another tree other than an oak, because an oak tree is so dirty, it drives me crazy.
So to your point, Marie, that was one of the first things that consultants noticed, was that the average daily trips on Old Dixie don't necessarily warrant it being as wide as it is. And so
Right.
they said with the number of trips there and the kind of the right of way width, there's some real opportunity to put in medians or do some things to slow traffic down, beautify it. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but Bridge Road at Dixie
Terrible,
is
yeah.
the most dangerous place in the
really
village.
bad.
Really?
Driving wise. Absolutely. We've had some really bad accidents there. I'm trying to get the data
That
from the
area
police
also
department.
has- I would say
It's
Old
how you
Dixie
fix your
generally
commute a
is a
little
big
bit.
problem.
It
I mean,
is.
I think Route 1 has a lot of work that needs done, but Old Dixie's
Yes,
very close.
but that specific
But it's
Yes,
county, right?
little
area.
section
Right.
is, we have,
Oh, no,
so I'm
my
trying to get the
cousin says
data on
he
it,
was
but
killed
there's
there.
been some,
Yeah.
yeah, there's been some fatalities there and bad accidents, and so, that's one of the things that we're gonna be looking at as well. But we don't have to solve it all tonight, but if you wanna come back, we can continue workshopping it in April. We'll be working on this for the next few months and,
Okay.
wrapping up sometime this summer.
Awesome, I'll
Well,
make a
good,
list.
that's a
But-
good thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
make a list, so.
Yeah,
Make a list.
That's right.
yeah.
I have one, my beef with Route 1 is that we have the two halves of Tequesta. We have the island and then we have everybody else. And it's really hard to get across Route 1 with, as a pedestrian or even on a bicycle. It's,
Yeah.
I
you don't want to do it,
I wouldn't
right?
even try.
No one
Yeah.
wants to walk there. So I think that intersection at Tequesta Drive and Old Dixie so that we can get there and then get down to the beach and across and people can walk the other direction too.
Yeah.
That needs to be a priority to unify Tequesta
Yes.
and like trees to shade it because it's
Teenagers
hot.
love to go to
Like I
King's
see
Bridge,
these
it's
poor
really hard,
people.
yeah.
Yes, yes.
You see these poor people like walking and biking and running, and I'm like, but it's it's very unpleasant there. But it shouldn't be.
Yeah, there's just an overall lack of crosswalks. There's not a crosswalk at Kados or at the J-Lona properties
Right,
from one
right,
side to the
yeah.
other. There's not one at the entrance to JAC on Beach Road, which,
Yeah.
so I've met with the JAC city manager and she was like, we've got to get this in. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of, I call it low-hanging fruit,
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
really low-hanging fruit. The craziest one is there are not bike racks at Constitution Park.
Yeah, that's wild, right?
Like, yeah. So there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that we can solve, but then some,
Yeah.
some big
Yeah, but
ideas that
nobody
will
thought
also.
Because people weren't biking as much then when we were doing it years ago.
Yeah.
Biking has become a thing.
There were bikes before the community,
Really?
racks before the community center went in. You could do a lot more with bike racks.
Yeah.
And now that the entrance is on the side,
It's
there's a lot, it's a
difficult.
lot different to leave,
Yeah.
a bike.
It was nicer, we had the bike racks in the front, so,
Right, they were
but now
there.
you got it on the side,
Yeah.
so.
We're working on it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, if we're ready to adjourn,
I make a motion.
okay,
I second it.
all in favor?
I think we should stay in the.
Meeting is adjourned.
here alone.